Hi, and welcome back to Long Haul Healing, a safe place for COVID sufferers, survivors, and long haulers. My name is Nikki, and in today's video, I'll be talking about something that I struggled with for weeks, survivor's guilt. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically what it sounds like, feeling guilty for surviving something, in this case, COVID. Some of the main symptoms of survivor's guilt are feeling guilty for surviving something when others didn't, feeling guilty about things that you did or things that you didn't do, anxiety, depression. You can also experience other symptoms of PTSD like obsessive thoughts, flashbacks, feeling helpless, being irritable or angered easily, headaches, nausea, problems sleeping. There are others, but these are the main ones that I experienced and had to deal with. That being said, I am not a medical professional. I am just sharing my experiences and letting you know that if you are experiencing this as well, you are not alone. So, long story short, I tested positive back in November, as well as a friend of mine and a coworker who tested positive and 4 days later passed away. And I spent weeks beating myself up about it. I kept thinking that if I didn't get sick, then he wouldn't have gotten sick, and if he wouldn't have gotten sick, he would still be here. I kept going back to that week that I initially got sick, replaying in my mind all of the things that I could have done, that I should have done, and how things would have been different. I went down this dark and lonely rabbit hole, and it took me weeks to pull myself out of. So this brings me to tips on how to cope with survivor's guilt. Tip number 1, accept your feelings. Sometimes when you're going through something, you have to go through it. So just let it happen. Let yourself ride that wave of emotion. Those first few weeks, I got so overwhelmed with, of course, grief, but guilt was a big part of it, and I'd start bawling my eyes out doing simple stuff like brushing my teeth or making breakfast or pulling into work and crying in the parking lot. I just allowed myself to ride those waves of emotions, and you should too. Instead of holding it all in, just let it out. And just like me, I'm pretty sure you'll feel a little better. Even if it's 1% better, a little progress is better than no progress. Tip number 2, allow yourself to grieve. Sometimes you don't know anyone personally who died, but there were over 2 million people who didn't make it, and they had friends and family. They were all humans. We're all humans. It's okay to grieve for strangers. Just find a way to grieve for them. I found my own way of grieving. My friends Ben and Jerry can tell you all about it. Speaking of friends telling you stuff, why don't you try telling your friends stuff with tip number 3, reaching out. We are social beings, so reach out. I eventually reached out to a couple of my friends, and guess what? I felt better. They rationalized for me. One of them pointed out that I wasn't actively trying to get sick, and then I wasn't spreading it to others. Another friend also pointed out that life is unfair. It just is. People get sick. People die. Life goes on. We worked in the food industry for 3 restaurants. Studies have confirmed that restaurants are hotspots for COVID. So us catching it was inevitable. It was bound to happen sooner or later. The biggest relief I actually got was from talking to my manager at work. Of course, we were both grieving, and I admitted that I blamed myself. And he told me that I was actually the last one to get sick. So probably was me who infected everyone else at work. Well, not everyone. There was only 4 of us that tested positive that I know of. But yeah, it most likely wasn't me. So that was definitely a huge relief that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten if I didn't talk about it. Tip number 4, practice self-care, like eating a healthy diet and getting plenty of rest. You can also do things like meditating, journaling, listening to soothing music, taking a nice hot bath, aromatherapy candles, arts and crafts. Just do something that makes you feel good. Small tweaks lead to giant peaks. Tip number 5, gratitude and embracing your life. Being grateful for being alive doesn't devalue the lives of those who died. It doesn't diminish your grief in any way either. Celebrate your life and theirs and carry on their memory. In some ways, I like to think that I'm also living for my friend, and I'm doing things that I never would have done, like making this YouTube channel. You still got a chance at this thing called life, so make the most of it. My last tip I have for you is if you're still having a hard time with this and still struggling, then definitely reach out and find a medical professional. Find a counselor or a therapist who specializes in trauma. That way they're more likely to be experienced with survivor's guilt. All right, I hope you got some value out of this. And if you're also dealing with or going through, or if you have in the past experienced survivor's guilt, then let us know down in the comments so that we know that we're not alone. Make good choices, y'all, and remember to hydrate.